The hum of the assembly chamber vibrated through Captain Alara Voss's bones, a low thrum from the holographic emitters projecting the alien delegates in shimmering blue veils. She stood at the human delegation's podium, flight suit crisp against the recycled air, hands steady on the edge despite the knot in her gut. Earth wasn't supposed to be here, not like this, not as the underdog staring down a council of species who'd claimed the stars centuries before humanity even dreamed of them. Beside her, Dr. Kai Ren adjusted his glasses, fingers tapping a subtle rhythm on his tablet. The physicist was all sharp angles and quicker thoughts, the kind of man who could dismantle a warp drive with a pencil and rebuild it better by breakfast. "They're stalling," he murmured, voice low enough for only her to hear. "Look at the Zorith rep. Those tentacles are twitching like he's got indigestion." Ilara shot him a sidelong glance, lips twitching despite the tension. Kai's wit was a lifeline in rooms like this, where every word felt like a minefield. Across the chamber, the Zorith delegate undulated in his fluid tank, bioluminescent eyes flickering with what passed for impatience among his kind. The Galactic Concordance's chamber was a neutral nexus, orbiting a dead star far from any world's politics, but today it reeked of imposition. The presiding chair, a crystalline entity from the Valari Collective, chimed its resonance field to call order. "Delegation of Sol 3, your petition for observer status is noted. However, the Concordance deems your system's resources, particularly the helium-3 deposits on Luna, vital to the stability of the outer rim trade lanes. Integration protocols will commence. Order is declared." Ilara's jaw tightened. Integration. That's what they called it when they stripped a planet bare under the guise of helping. Earth had scraped by on the fringes for decades, trading scraps of tech for survival, but the recent mining probes vanishing near Luna had been the last straw. No more begging. She leaned into the podium's mic, voice steady, amplified across the void. "With respect, Chair, Earth rejects integration. We declare our independence from Concordance oversight. Our resources are ours to steward." A ripple passed through the holograms, gasps from the avian Kree, a low hiss from the insectoid Thrax. Kai's tapping stopped, eyes widening behind the lenses. The Zoritha's tentacles froze mid-wave. The Valari's crystals pulsed red. "Independence is not yours to declare, Sol 3. The Concordance protects the weak. Refusal invites sanction." Ilara met the projection's glow without flinching. She'd faced worse than alien bureaucracy, black hole anomalies that swallowed ships whole, solar flares that fried NAV systems. But this was the chamber deciding Earth's fate like it was a disputed asteroid. "We've protected ourselves for millennia. We'll continue to." Kai leaned in again, whispering urgently. "Ilara, their enforcer fleet's already en route. Sensors picked it up an hour ago, 3 cruisers, Zorith command." She nodded fractionally, heart pounding. The chamber's order was law, backed by the galaxy's biggest guns. But Earth had grit and a few tricks up its sleeve. As the session dissolved into chaotic projections, Ilara signaled the comms officer back on the shuttle. "Time to get clever." The shuttle's engines roared to life as they detached from the docking arm, the chamber shrinking to a glittering speck against the starfield. Ilara strapped in, Kai already plotting trajectories on his tablet. "First stop, the outer belt," she said, voice firm. "We rally the miners. If the Concordance wants a fight, they'll get one on our turf." Kai glanced up, a grin breaking through the worry. Human ingenuity against tentacle tech. "My money's on us." But as the shuttle jumped to slip space, a warning ping echoed, Zorith interceptors lighting up their scopes. The chase was on, and Earth's declaration had just lit the fuse. Captain Ilara Voss gripped the armrest of her command chair, the hum of the bridge's consoles a steady pulse against the rising chatter from her crew. The holographic display flickered with the incoming transmission from the Sol Alliance Council, Earth's bold declaration of independence, broadcast across the galaxy just hours ago. She could still picture the chamber on Luna. Delegates from every colony rising in unison, their voices a defiant roar against the Xenarch Council's edict. Order restored, the aliens had called it, imposing quarantines and resource levies as if humanity were just another cog in their stellar machine. But Earth had said no. Now the fallout was inbound. "Captain," Lieutenant Kai Ren's voice cut through the tension, fingers dancing over the sensor array. Kai was the steady one, his calm demeanor an anchor in storms like this. Born on Mars with a mind sharpened by red dust and endless simulations. Multiple signatures emerging from hyperspace. 3 cruisers, Xenarch design. They're hailing us. Alara nodded, jaw set. The Aurora was a scout vessel, sleek and fast, patrolling the outer rim of Sol when the declaration hit. No fleet to back them up, just her crew of 20 and a cargo hold full of survey drones. She straightened her uniform, the fabric whispering against her skin. On screen, Lieutenant. Let's hear what the overlords have to say. The hologram shimmered, resolving into the stern visage of Praetor Lyric, a towering vexary with iridescent scales and eyes like polished obsidian. His species had brokered the Council's peace for centuries, their bureaucracy a web that snared worlds. Human vessel Aurora, he intoned, voice like grinding stone, you are in violation of Galactic Accord 47B. The Chamber has declared order on your system. Power down engines and prepare for boarding. Compliance ensures minimal disruption. Alara leaned forward, green eyes locking onto his. Wood had always been her weapon, sharper than any laser, honed in the academies where humans learned to outthink the stars. Praetor, with respect, the Accord's a relic. Earth speaks for itself now. We're charting our own course. Suggest you do the same. Lyric's frills flared, a vexary sign of irritation. Insolence. Your declaration is null. Surrender or face enforcement. The transmission cut, and the bridge fell silent save for the soft beep of proximity alerts. Alara turned to her engineer, Mira Solis, who hovered at the auxiliary station. Mira was the cautious heart of the team, hands always stained with lubricant from tinkering in the bowels of the ship. A genius with machines, but wary of risks that could strand them light years from home. Options, Mira? Alara asked, keeping her tone even. Myra's brow furrowed, dark curls escaping her ponytail as she pulled up schematics. We can outrun them in straight-line velocity. The Aurora-S mods give us an edge. But if they deploy tractors or jam our drives? She trailed off, glancing at the readouts. The cruisers were closing, their formations textbook. 1 lead, 2 flanks designed to box and prey. Kai spun his chair. They're powering weapons. Low yield, but enough to disable. Alara's mind raced. Run, and they might draw the pack deeper into Sol, buying time for defenses to mobilize. Fight, and they'd be scrap. But the asteroid belt loomed nearby, a jagged graveyard of rock that could cloak them, if they timed it right. Helm, plot evasive to the belt. Mira prepped the drone swarm for decoys. Kai, jam their sensors with that ghost protocol you rigged last patrol. The crew sprang into action, the bridge alive with purpose. Alara felt the deck vibrate as engines thrummed to life, the Aurora leaping forward like a startled deer. Alarms wailed, enemy locks acquiring. Short bursts, pulse from the lead cruiser grazed their shields, sparks dancing across the viewport. Decoys away. Mira called, voice tight but steady. Tiny drones burst from the launch bays, mimicking the ship's signature as they scattered into the void. The cruisers hesitated, sensors pinging false trails. Alara allowed a thin smile. Human tricks, unpredictable, born of grit and late-night hacks. But as they dove toward the belt, a new alert pierced the din, the lead ship breaking formation, vectoring straight for them. No hesitation. Lyric wasn't buying the bluff. They're adapting, Kai muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Faster than protocol. Mira slammed a fist on her console. Shields at 62%. If we push into the belt too hot, debris could breach us. Alara gripped the arms tighter, stars streaking past. The plan was fraying already, clever adaptation meeting alien persistence. One wrong turn and the Aurora would join the rocks. Full burn. We weave through. Show them humanity doesn't fold easy. The ship shuddered into the asteroid field, shadows swallowing them as the first rocks loomed like silent sentinels. Behind, the cruisers followed, their lights cutting through the dark, a hunt just beginning. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the armrest of her command chair, the hum of the bridge's consoles a steady undercurrent to the tension coiling in her gut. The holographic display flickered, projecting the chamber's latest decree in stark blue light. Earth's provisional status revoked, effective immediately. Independence? It was a spark in a powder keg and she was the one holding the match. Status on the fleet, Lieutenant Rao? She asked, voice cutting through the murmurs. Rao, ever the cautious one, tapped his panel with precise fingers, brow furrowed under the dim overheads. 3 corvettes holding formation, ma'am. But the chamber's enforcers are mobilizing, 2 heavy cruisers inbound from the outer rim. ETA 6 hours if we don't jump. Elena nodded, mind racing through vectors and contingencies. The crew watched her, a tight-knit group forged in the asteroid belts. Rao with his endless calculations, Engineer Mills cracking wise under fire, and Doc Hale patching up the fallout. They'd followed her through raids on mining outposts, always one step ahead of the chamber's iron grip. But this? Declaring for Earth meant burning every bridge, every alias they'd built. A sharp alert pierced the air. Incoming transmission. Mills called from comms, wiry frame hunched over the board. It's the lead cruiser hailing us direct. Put it on, Elena said, straightening. The screen resolved into the stern face of Admiral Core, scaled features twisted in disapproval. A Vexery, one of the chamber's old guard, loyal to the core world's endless bureaucracy. Human vessel, this is Admiral Core of the Order's 5th Fleet. You are in violation of interstellar accords. Power down and prepare for boarding or face neutralization. Elena's lips curved into a wry smile, the kind that hid the knot in her chest. Admiral, we're just a survey ship charting independence. No accords broken here. Core's eyes narrowed, the translation overlay glitching slightly. Lies. Your colony's broadcast reached us. Earth stands alone now, foolish primates thinking they can defy the chamber. Surrender and perhaps your leaders live. The bridge fell silent, the weight of his words hanging like exhaust fumes. Rao shot her a glance, dark eyes questioning. Mills muttered under his breath, Prick's got a whole fleet itching for this. Elena leaned forward, voice steady as hull plating. Admiral, we've got no quarrel with the Order. But Earth's not yours to order around anymore. Core's laugh was a guttural rasp. Then your course ends here. The channel cut, and red blips swarmed the display, drones launching from the cruisers, a net closing fast. Evade pattern Delta, Elena ordered, snapping her harness tight. The ship lurched as thrusters fired, Rao plotting the twist through debris fields. Mills hooped softly, rerouting power to shields, while Hale prepped medbay for the inevitable. But as they banked hard, a drone clipped their flank, sparks flying from a console. Alarms wailed, hull breach in engineering. Elena's heart pounded. One hit too many, and their bold stand became a tomb. Mills, seal it off. Rao, find us a blind spot. The stars wheeled outside the viewport, a reminder of the void's indifference. Earth's declaration echoed in her mind, not just words but a gamble on grit and guile. They had to make it count. Elena gripped the armrest of her command chair, the hum of the bridge's consoles a faint vibration through the deck plating. The view screen flickered with the latest scan data from the outer perimeter, dozens of chamber enforcer ships, their angular hulls like predatory shadows against the starfield. Her fingers itched for the controls, but she forced herself to lean back, eyes on Marcus as he hunched over the auxiliary panel. Talk to me, Hale, she said, voice steady despite the knot in her gut. That jury-rigged shield emitter holding? Marcus wiped sweat from his brow, usual smirk absent. He tapped a sequence into the interface, lines of code scrolling like frantic insects. It's functional, Captain. Barely. We pulled it from the wreckage of the forward array after their last pulse hit us. But if they fire again, it'll fry the whole power grid. We're one overload away from drifting dead in the black. Sophia Chin paced behind them, boots clipping sharp against the metal floor. She was the cautious one, always calculating odds, and right now her face was a mask of controlled worry. We should have fallen back to the moon base hours ago. This close to their line we're sitting ducks. Elena, pull us out, regroup, hit them with the stealth probes later. Elena shook her head, watching a new alert blink on the screen. Incoming transmission from the chamber flagship. No. We retreat now, they encircle the colony ships. Those families down on New Terra are counting on us to punch a hole. She accepted the hail, and the view screen split to show Ambassador Vexor, multifaceted eyes gleaming under the harsh lights of his vessel. The alien's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Captain Reyes," Vexor intoned, voice like grinding gravel. "The Chamber's decree stands. Earth's independence is a nullity, your world reverts to protectorate status. Surrender your fleet, or we escalate to full orbital denial." Elena's jaw tightened. The Chamber had declared order on a dozen fringe worlds before, folding them back into their bureaucratic web with blockades and ultimatums. But Earth? After the ingenuity that built the warp drives they all envied? No. She leaned forward. "Ambassador, your order is just another leash. We're not pets. Stand down or we'll show you why humans don't kneel." Vexor's eyes narrowed and the transmission cut. Seconds later, alarms wailed, enemy weapons charging. "Brace!" Elena barked. The ship shuddered as the first energy lances streaked past, grazing the hull. Marcus slammed a fist on his console, rerouting power. Emitters spiking, holding, but it's hot. Sophia dropped into her station, fingers flying. Evasive pattern delta, now. The Endeavor twisted, thrusters flaring in a desperate arc. But the chamber ships adjusted, formation tightening like a noose. Another volley hit, and sparks erupted from the overhead vents. Elena smelled ozone, felt the deck tilt. "Direct hit on engineering," Sophia reported, voice tight. "We're venting plasma. Marcus, can you? Working on it." He yanked open a panel, sparks dancing across his gloves as he fused wires with a makeshift tool. Elena's mind raced. Their initial plan had been simple. Slip through the blockade using the emitter's bubble to mask their signature, deliver the Independence Charter to the outer colonies, rally them. But the emitter was failing faster than predicted, and now a second wave of enforcers was closing from the flank. The ship groaned under another impact, lights flickering. Elena unstrapped, grabbing a handhold to steady herself. "Sophia, get me a firing solution on their lead cruiser." Marcus, buy us 30 seconds. She didn't wait for replies, activating the internal comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We're in the fire now, hold the line. Earth doesn't break." As the Endeavor banked hard, Elena caught a glimpse through the viewport. The chamber fleet, vast and unyielding, hulls etched with the symbols of 1,000 subjugated stars. But, in the distance, faint signatures blinked, colony signals waiting. The cost was already mounting. 2 escort fighters gone in the opening salvo, crews lost to the void. If they failed here, the charter burned, and independence with it. Marcus let out a triumphant grunt. Emitter stabilized, sort of. "We've got a window." The shield shimmered back to life, cloaking them in a haze of distorted space. Sophia's targeting locked, torpedoes launching in a silent streak. The lead cruiser erupted in a bloom of fire, debris scattering like shattered glass. But as the cheers died on the bridge, a new alert pierced the din: structural breach in the cargo hold. The charter documents, Earth's declaration, encoded on irreplaceable crystal drives, were exposed. Elena's heart sank. Vexor's voice crackled over the open channel. "Clever, human. But your trinkets won't save you." The fleet reformed, probes launching toward the breach. The plan had backfired, turning their strength into a glaring weakness. Elena gripped the edge of the console, knuckles whitening as the ship's alarms blared in staccato bursts. The view screen flickered with static, revealing glimpses of the alien fleet's jagged silhouettes against the asteroid field's debris. "Status Hale?" she barked, voice cutting through the din like a knife. Marcus Hale wiped sweat from his brow, fingers flying over the jury-rigged panel. Cautious as ever, he double-checked each connection before responding. "Shields at 30%, Captain." That last volley from their interceptors fried the auxiliary generators. "We're blind on sensors, could be a dozen more closing in or just ghosts in the rocks." He glanced up, eyes steady but shadowed with doubt. "We can't take another hit like that." Kai Rin leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed, a wry smile tugging at his lips despite the chaos. "Ghosts or not, they're herding us like space sheep. Remember that drill back on the outpost? Adapt or die, they said. Well, here's our chance to improvise." He pushed off and crouched beside Marcus, peering at the flickering diagnostics. What if we vent the plasma from the forward thrusters? It'll mask our signature in the debris cloud, buy us time to slip through the gap. Elena nodded, mind racing through the risks. The Chamber's decree had come down like a hammer 2 cycles ago. Earth's independence nullified, resources requisitioned for the Galactic Accord's stability. But out here in the shadowed fringes of the Sol system, her crew's stolen corvette was their only shot at rallying the hidden resistance cells. Losing it meant more than their lives. It meant the Accord's grip tightening on every colony, every breath of free air. Do it, she said. But if it backfires, we're debris ourselves. Marcus hesitated, cautious nature warring with the urgency. Venting plasma could overload the core. One wrong valve and we're a fireball. He met Elena's gaze, then sighed and initiated the sequence. Hatches hissed open. A brilliant azure plume erupted from the bow, swirling into the asteroid field's dust like ink in water. The view screen cleared momentarily, showing the interceptors veering off, confused by the false trail. For a heartbeat, relief washed over the bridge. Kai clapped Marcus on the shoulder. See? Human ingenuity, turning trash into treasure. But Elena's instincts prickled. The fleet wasn't scattering. They were regrouping, formation tightening like a noose. They're adapting faster than we thought, she muttered. A new alert pierced the comm. Incoming transmission encrypted Accord protocol. The comms crackled to life, and a holographic figure materialized. Ambassador Vexer, elongated features twisted in synthetic comm. Human vessel, this is the Chamber's enforcer. Your evasion ends here. Surrender the Corvette and your manifest data or face annihilation. Earth's order is restored, resistance is obsolete. His voice dripped with the cold logic of a 1,000-year bureaucracy. Elena's jaw set. Obsolete? Not while she breathed. Tell him we're not in the business of surrendering, she said to Kai, who was already patching into the reply channel. Kai's fingers danced, injecting a virus into the feed, a little gift from Earth's underground coders, designed to scramble their targeting arrays. Response sent. Chamber declares order? We declare otherwise. The hologram flickered, Vexer's form glitching as the virus took hold. But the ambassador's eyes narrowed before vanishing. Clever, Captain Vargas. But cleverness has limits. The ship lurched as a proximity warning screamed. An interceptor had broken through the cloud, weapons hot. Marcus slammed the evasion controls, weaving through a cluster of tumbling rocks the size of habitats. Elena braced against the G-forces, mind flashing to the resistance briefings. The Accord's tech outmatched them, but humans endured. Hale, plot a course for the derelict station, full burn. Ren, get me eyes on that gap. As the Corvette surged forward, engines groaning under the strain, Kai pulled up a makeshift scan. Gap's narrowing. They've got drones sealing it off. The image sharpened. A narrow corridor of open space, flanked by spinning asteroids and the hulking remnants of an old mining rig. One wrong move and they'd be pulverized. Elena straightened, resolve hardening her features. We go through. It's our only play. The crew moved as one, no arguments, just the quiet rhythm of trust forged in fire. But as they closed on the gap, a low rumble built in the hull, a telltale sign the plasma vent had stressed the core more than Marcus admitted. Lingering smoke curled from vents and Elena caught the faint acrid scent. Consequence, she thought. Always a price. The interceptor fired, a lance of energy grazing their flank. Shields buckled, sparks flying across the bridge. Marcus cursed under his breath, adjusting course by instinct. Holding, barely. They plunged into the gap, asteroids whistling past like vengeful spirits. For a moment, it seemed they'd make it. Then the core warning escalated, red lights bathing the cabin in bloody glow. Kai shot Elena a look, half grin, half grimace. Told you it was ingenious. Now let's see if it's survivable. The ship shuddered, but held, emerging into the far side's shadow. The fleet's pursuit lagged, thrown by the virus and debris. Yet as they limped toward the derelict station, Elena knew this was no victory. The Accord would hunt them relentlessly now, and the core's damage meant repairs under fire. Independence wasn't declared in grand halls, it was clawed from the void, one desperate choice at a time. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the edge of the console, knuckles whitening as the ship's alarms blared in staccato bursts. The bridge was a haze of red emergency lights, casting jagged shadows across the faces of her crew. Marcus, ever the steady hand, punched commands into the navigation panel, brow furrowed in concentration. "Shields at 30%, he reported, voice calm but edged with strain. "That last volley from the enforcer drones clipped us good." Lila, the engineer, slid under a sparking panel on all fours, toolkit clattering. "Give me 2 minutes, she muttered, wrench already twisting into the guts of the power relay. Sparks flew, illuminating the grease streaks on her face. Elena nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. 2 minutes might as well be an eternity with the Galactic Chamber's fleet closing in. The view screen flickered, showing the Armada's sleek, obsidian hulls arrayed like a noose tightening around their battered freighter, the Indomitable. It had started as a simple supply run to the outer colonies, Earth's quiet defiance against the Chamber's endless decrees. But when the news broke of the Independence Declaration back home, every ship with human markings became a target. The Chamber had called it order, but to Elena, it felt like a cage slamming shut. "They're hailing us again," Marcus said, glancing her way. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, held a question: fight or fold? Elena straightened, smoothing her uniform despite the sweat beading on her forehead. Brave wasn't her natural state, it was a choice hammered into her during those long academy drills on a warming Earth. Put it through. Let's see what fresh nonsense they've got. The screen resolved into the stern visage of Overseer Krell, multifaceted eyes glinting like polished obsidian. The alien's mandibles clicked in what Elena guessed was irritation. "Human vessel Indomitable, you are in violation of Chamber Directive 47B. Surrender your cargo and crew for processing. Resistance will result in neutralization." Elena leaned forward, forcing a wry smile. "Overseer, we've got families waiting on that cargo. Medicine, food, the basics. Earth's not handing over squat to your processing mills. You want it? Come take a look at what ingenuity bought us." Krell's form rippled, a sign of agitation among his kind. "Your planet's so-called independence is a delusion. The Chamber declares order, you will comply or be expunged." The channel cut, and the ship shuddered as another barrage rattled the hull. Lila popped up from the floor, face smeared black. "Relays patched, shields climbing to 60. But if they hit us again, we're venting atmosphere." Elena paced, mind racing. The initial plan, slipped through the debris field of an old war zone, had backfired spectacularly when the drones flushed them out. Now, with the fleet boxing them in, evasion was a pipe dream. But surrender? That meant re-education camps, or worse, dissolution into the Chamber's labor hives. No, they had to adapt. "Marcus, plot a course toward that gas giant's rings." "Lila, can we rig the cargo bay vents to disperse the medgel? Make it look like we're dumping contraband?" Lila's eyes lit up, the cautious engineer giving way to the spark of mischief Elena relied on. "Aye, Captain. It'll fog their sensors for a bit, buy us time to slingshot around the rings." Marcus adjusted the thrusters, the ship groaning as it banked hard. "It's risky. One wrong move and we're debris." "Then make it right," Elena said, voice steady. As the Indomitable dove toward the swirling rings, a rogue asteroid clipped their flank, shearing off a sensor array. Alarms wailed anew, but Elena felt the camaraderie solidify, the unspoken pact that had carried them this far. Earth's declaration wasn't just words, it was this, the grit to turn the tide. The rings loomed, a glittering storm of ice and rock. Drones peeled off in pursuit, their fire grazing the shields. Lila's hack worked. A plume of shimmering gel erupted from the vents, blooming into a sensor-blinding cloud. The fleet hesitated, formations fracturing as confusion rippled through their hive-mind links. Elena watched the chaos unfold, heart pounding. It wasn't victory yet, just a breath, a chance. But in that moment, with her crew's hands flying across controls, she saw the cost. The Indomitable limping, resources dwindling, and the Chamber's wrath only growing. Independence demanded more than defiance. It carved pieces from you, leaving scars that time wouldn't erase. Elena gripped the console edge, knuckles whitening as the ship's alarms blared in staccato bursts. The Void Runner shuddered, inertial dampeners straining against the sudden gravitational shear from the nebula's edge. Jax was already elbow-deep in an access panel, sparks flying like angry fireflies, face smeared with grease and determination. "Talk to me, Jax," she said, voice steady despite the knot in her gut. The plan had been simple. Slip through the nebula's interference to reach the relay station, plant the virus that would broadcast Earth's declaration across the chamber's networks. Independence wasn't just words anymore. It was this, risking everything on a ghost ship and a prayer. He yanked a conduit free, cursing under his breath. "Shields are holding at 30%. That patrol drone must have pinged us before we jammed it. We're lit up like a supernova." His fingers danced over a makeshift diagnostic pad, rerouting power with the precision of someone who jury-rigged half the colony's defenses back home. Witty as ever, even now, "If we don't shake this, the chamber's goons will have us gift-wrapped for their next tribunal." Mira hovered nearby, her diplomat's poise cracking just a fraction. She was the cautious one, always calculating odds, but her eyes flicked to the viewport where the nebula's violet tendrils clawed at the stars. "We can't fight them head-on. The relays are only shot. Earth's fleets are mobilizing, but without the signal, it's chaos down there." She tapped her comm, whispering coordinates to the away team on the station. No lectures, just facts sharp as a blade. The ship lurched again, a tractor beam latching on from the pursuing interceptor. Elena's mind raced. Adapt or die, that's what humanity did. Divert auxiliary thrusters to the port side. Use the nebula's pull to slingshot us free. It was a gamble, the kind that had won wars and simulations but never felt this raw. Jax nodded, slamming the panel shut. "On it. Hold tight, this'll feel like kissing an asteroid." Power hummed through the decks, the Void Runner groaning as it twisted into the gravitational maw. For a heartbeat, the stars smeared into streaks, the interceptor's beam flickering under the interference. Then, disaster. The virus upload hit a snag on the station end. Myra's comm crackled with static, the away team's voice cutting through. "Firewall's adaptive. It's countering." Explosion rocked the hull, not from outside but within. The nebula's exotic particles had interacted with their jury-rigged cloak, frying the core relays. Lights dimmed, emergency reds bathing the bridge in bloody glow. Elena stumbled, catching herself on the captain's chair. "Damage report." "Life support nominal," Jax barked, already prying open another hatch. "But engines are toast. We're drifting straight into the heart of that mess." He shot her a grin, half mad, half defiant. "Humans, right? Always one step from brilliant to bonkers." Myra's face paled as she scanned the readouts. The interceptor was closing, its silhouette a predatory shadow against the swirling gases. Worse, the relay station's defenses were activating, automated turrets swiveling toward the away team. One of their own, Tomas, was pinned down, his suit venting atmosphere from a glancing hit. Elena's resolve hardened. No surrender, not after the chamber's edict stripped Earth's autonomy, labeling them unruly primitives fit only for oversight. This was their stand. "Jax, get me auxiliary power to the weapons." Mira signaled the team to fall back to the extraction point. "We improvise." As the ship spun lazily into the nebula's embrace, a single vivid image burned in Elena's mind, the blue marble of home defiant against the void. They weren't done yet. Grit like that didn't yield to locks or beams, it bent them, broke them, built something new from the shards. The alarms wailed on, but so did their pulse, steady and unyielding. Elena gripped the railing of the observation deck, her knuckles white against the cold metal. The stars outside the viewport stretched into infinity, but her focus narrowed on the holographic display flickering before her. Tom's latest hack into the alien network showed the blockade tightening, dozens of sleek Vexery cruisers forming an impenetrable web around Sol's outer rim. "They're not bluffing," she muttered, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Independence Day was 48 hours away, and the Vexery's ordered declaration hung over them like a noose. Lila paced behind her, tablet clutched like a shield. "The quantum relays are holding, but if they detect the surge from our countermeasure." Her words trailed off, eyes darting to the schematics. Cautious as ever, she'd argued against Tom's risky plan from the start, but now there was no turning back. The Chamber's edict had stripped Earth of its provisional status in the Galactic Concord, labeling humanity a disruptive anomaly. No more trade, no more tech exchanges, just isolation until they submitted. Tom leaned against the console, wiping grease from his hands on his jumpsuit. Detect us? Please. I've got the signature masked tighter than a politician's alibi. His grin was lopsided, but his eyes betrayed the strain. 12 hours straight in the engine bay, rerouting power to jury-rig the old fusion core into something that could punch a hole through their shields. He'd always been the witty one, cracking jokes to keep morale up, but even he couldn't hide the exhaustion etching lines around his mouth. A low chime interrupted them, the alert light pulsing red. Elena straightened. Report. Incoming transmission, the AI intoned, voice calm as fabricated ice. Vexery command vessel. They're hailing the Odyssey directly. Lila froze mid-step. They shouldn't know we're out here. Tom, what did you— Easy, Doc, he cut in, fingers flying over the interface. It's a blind probe. Standard intimidation tactic. But, his brow furrowed as he traced the signal. The Vexery weren't known for bluffs. Their empire ran on precision, every decree enforced with overwhelming force. Elena nodded to the comm panel. Patch it through. Let's hear what the overlords have to say. The hologram shimmered, resolving into the angular face of Advisor Krell, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with synthetic indifference. The translator hummed to life. Human vessel Odyssey, Krell intoned, voice like grinding gears. You encroach upon secured space. The Chamber's order is absolute. Return to your cradle world or face neutralization. Earth's independence is a delusion, yield, and mercy may yet be extended. Elena's jaw tightened. She'd faced down boardroom sharks back on Luna Colony, but this was different. Real stakes, real lives. Advisor, the Chamber's order is a joke. Earth declares its sovereignty. We're not yielding to a bunch of tin-pot dictators who think paperwork trumps free will. Tom snorted softly beside her, but Lila shot him a warning glance. Krell's eyes narrowed, the hologram flickering as if his composure glitched. Insolence. Your ingenuity is noted, but futile. Our sensors detect anomalies in your drive signature. Cease operations or we will. The line cut, leaving silence thick as engine oil. Elena turned to her team. They're on to us. Tom, how long until the countermeasure's ready? 20 minutes, tops. But if they send interceptors? He trailed off, already pulling up evasion routes. Lila set her tablet down, decision hardening her features. We can't outrun them. But the asteroid field in Sector 7? It's dense enough to mask us. If we vent plasma to simulate a failure, draw them in. Elena's mind raced, piecing it together. Tom's cleverness, Lila's caution. It could work. Do it. Tom prepped the vents. Lila, calibrate the field maps. We're not running, we're fighting smart. As they scrambled, the ship lurched, a proximity warning blaring. Vexery scouts closing fast. Elena's heart pounded, but she forced calm into her voice. Hold steady. We've come too far to fold now. The deck vibrated under their feet, the Odyssey twisting toward the shadows of the belt. Rocks loomed in the viewport, jagged sentinels against the void. Tom's hands danced over controls, a wry smile breaking through. Here goes nothing. Time to show these bugs what human grit looks like. Lila monitored the readings, her voice tight. Contacts inbound. 5 minutes to contact. Elena watched the scopes, the weight of Earth's fate pressing down. One wrong move, and independence would be a footnote in galactic history. But as the first asteroid eclipsed the stars, she felt the spark of resolve ignite. They weren't just surviving, they were claiming what was theirs. Alex gripped the console's edge, his knuckles whitening as the ship's alarms blared in staccato bursts. The viewport ahead showed the debris field swelling like a graveyard of shattered hulls, remnants of the Chamber's enforcer fleet. Lena's voice cut through the din from the engineering bay, sharp and measured. Shields at 40%. If we push through without recalibrating the gravitics, we'll shear apart on that asteroid cluster. He didn't look back, eyes locked on the scanner readouts flickering red. Marco, strapped into the co-pilot's seat, let out a low whistle, his fingers dancing over the auxiliary controls. Recalibrating now would buy us what, 2 minutes? Those chamber drones are closing fast. I've got signatures on our tail, closing the noose. The plan had been simple. Slip through the outer rim of the Epsilon blockade, using the debris as cover to rendezvous with the underground supply convoy from Luna Base. Earth's independence declaration 3 cycles ago had turned the stars into a no-man's land, with the Chamber's order fleets enforcing sanctions that starved the colonies of Helium-3. But simple never meant safe. Their early feint, detonating a decoy probe to draw fire, had worked too well, scattering the drones but igniting a plasma storm in the field ahead. Now the ship, the Defiant Spark, shuddered under micro-impacts, each one a reminder of how thin their margins had grown. Options? Alex asked, voice steady despite the sweat beading on his brow. He was the glue here, the one who turned desperation into direction, but even he felt the weight of it, the lives back on Earth counting on this run, the families rationing air in the domed cities. Lena patched through a hollow display, her face materializing in the corner of his screen, lines of fatigue etching deeper around her eyes. Cautious as ever, she'd argued against the decoy from the start, predicting exactly this backlash. We could vent the auxiliary tanks for thrust, slingshot around the largest rock. Risky, loses us fuel for the return leg, but it dodges the storm's core. Marco snorted, yanking a lever to stabilize their yaw. Or we improvise. I've got an idea from that old Earth sim, use the debris itself. Magnetize the hull, pull in some scrap for a makeshift shield. Won't hold forever, but it'll blunt the worst of it. Alex waited, the ship bucking as a chunk of twisted metal glanced off their bow. Lena's way was survival, measured and sure. Marco's was bold, the kind of grit that had kept humanity scrapping in the void when the Chamber wrote them off as primitives. Earth's edge had always been this, camaraderie forged in the fire of necessity, turning scraps into salvation. Do both, he decided, snapping the words like a whip. Lena prepped the vents. Marco, magnetize on my mark. We thread this needle or we don't thread anything. The spark groaned in response, engines whining as they angled toward the storm's heart. Drones swarmed in the rear sensors, their sleek forms glinting like predators in the gas clouds. Alex hit the comms, broadcasting a tight beam to the convoy. Hold position. Inbound hot. Don't wait if we're late. Lena's hands flew across her panels, rerouting power with the precision of someone who dissected chamber tech in secret labs. Vents ready. Gravitics synced, 80% efficiency. This is going to rattle your teeth. Marco grinned, the scar on his cheek pulling tight. Good. Keeps us awake. He slammed the magnetized switch, and the ship lurched, hull humming as metallic shards began clumping against the reinforced plating. A makeshift armor, ugly and uneven, but it was theirs, human-born, defiant. They plunged in. The plasma storm hit like a gale, lightning arcing across the viewport in blinding veins. Alarms screamed anew, shields flaring under the barrage. A drone's beam lanced through the edge of their debris shield, carving a molten scar along the flank. The ship spun, controls fighting Alex's grip, but Marco countered with bursts from the maneuvering thrusters, steadying them inch by brutal inch. There. Lena shouted, her hollow flickering as the slingshot kicked in. The asteroid loomed, a craggy behemoth, and they whipped around it, G-forces pinning them to their seats. Debris trailed in their wake, a comet's tail of chaos that snagged 2 pursuing drones in a spectacular collision, fireballs blooming silent in the vacuum. They cleared the field, the storm receding to a distant roar. But the cost lingered, fuel gauges dipping perilously low, hull integrity at 62%, and a new alert flashing, proximity warning. The convoy's signal blinked ahead, but so did a fresh chamber patrol, vectors intersecting. Marco eased back on the throttles, exhaling slow. We made it through the grinder. Now the real fun starts. Alex nodded, wiping his brow, the adrenaline ebbing into resolve. Earth's independence wasn't won in grand declarations. It was carved here, in the dark between stars, one desperate adaptation at a time. But as the patrols closed, he wondered if this run would be the one that finally broke them, or the spark that ignited the counterstrike. The dim hum of the auxiliary engines vibrated through the deck plating, a constant reminder that the Endeavor was running on borrowed time. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the armrest of her command chair, her knuckles whitening as she stared at the tactical display. Red blips swarmed the edges of the sensor net, picket ships from the Chamber's enforcer fleet, closing in like wolves on a wounded beast. Her crew, what was left of it, moved with the grim efficiency of people who'd stared down worse odds. Engineer Tomas Reyes hunched over a console, sweat beading on his forehead, rerouting power from non-essentials to the shields. Beside him, Dr. Mira Chen, the xenobiologist turned reluctant diplomat, murmured calculations into her tablet, her cautious nature yielding to the fire in her eyes. "They're matching our vector," Tomas said, his voice steady despite the strain. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand, fingers smudged with grease. "If we push the engines harder, we might slip through that asteroid field ahead. But it'll fry the coils, maybe permanently." Elena nodded, her brave resolve masking the knot in her gut. The Chamber's declaration had been a slap in the face, order imposed upon the rogue world of Sol 3. Independence? They'd earned it through blood and ingenuity, not some alien decree. But now, with the Endeavor smuggling the encoded declaration back to Earth, failure meant subjugation for billions. "Do it," she ordered. "Mira, any chance those enforcers will break off if we hail them with the broadcast?" Mira glanced up, her witty edge surfacing in a tight smile. "Doubt it. The Vexery captain's logs I decrypted show they're programmed for zero tolerance. But if we spoof a distress signal laced with the declaration, it might confuse their AI long enough for us to gain distance." The ship lurched as Tomas engaged the overdrive. Alarms blared, hull integrity dropping, shields flickering like a dying flame. Through the viewport, the asteroid field loomed, jagged rocks tumbling in silent chaos, lit by the distant glow of a binary star. Elena's mind raced. Their early plan to rendezvous with Earth's hidden fleet had backfired spectacularly when a Chamber spy drone tagged them mid-jump. Now it was adapt or die. A proximity alert screamed. One enforcer ship, sleek and thorned like a Vexery warspike, broke from the pack, firing a warning volley. Plasma bolts streaked past, scorching the void. Evasive. Elena barked. The Endeavor twisted, thrusters firing in erratic bursts, grazing a boulder the size of a skyscraper. Shards peppered the hull, and Tomas cursed as a power surge shorted a panel, sparks raining down. "Shields at 30%, he reported, slamming a manual override. His hands flew across the controls, human grit turning desperation into defiance. Mira patched in the spoof signal, her voice calm over the comms. "This is the independent vessel Endeavor. Cease pursuit or face the consequences of Sol's unified front." It was a bluff, but the words carried the weight of Earth's resolve. The enforcer hesitated, its formation stuttering as the AI parsed the anomaly. But only for a moment. A fresh barrage lit the darkness, one bolt shearing off a solar array. The ship shuddered violently, lights dimming ship-wide. Elena braced as inertia tugged at her, the air thick with the acrid scent of burning circuits. "Tomas, get us deeper into the field." "Mira, options, now." Myra's eyes narrowed, scanning the asteroid composition. "Those rocks aren't just debris. Scans show they're rich in ferromagnetic ore. If we detonate a microtorpedo in the right spot, it could create an EMP burst. Disrupt their sensors without blowing us to hell. Risky. One wrong calculation and they'd be pulverized. But the alternative was capture, the declaration lost, Earth's fight crumbling." Elena met Tomas's gaze. He gave a curt nod, his cautious optimism shining through. "Let's make him regret underestimating us." Tomas armed the torpedo, fingers trembling slightly, not from fear but the raw adrenaline of creation under fire. He jury-rigged the yield with scraps from the engineering bay, turning a defensive weapon into a clever trap. Firing in 3, 2. The torpedo lanced out, vanishing into the tumbling mass. Seconds later, a silent bloom of electromagnetic fury erupted, static washing over the sensors. The enforcer's blips vanished from the display, replaced by frantic static. Cheers erupted on the bridge, short and fierce, as the Endeavor plunged deeper into the field, debris clanging harmlessly against reinforced plating. But victory was fleeting. Elena's console pinged, a structural warning. The overdrive had taken its toll. Microfractures spiderwebbed the engine core. They bought time, maybe hours, but the fleet was still light years away. And in the wake of the EMP, a new signal flickered. Reinforcements, larger, unforgiving. The cost of independence pressed in, heavy as the void outside. As the ship steadied, Elena leaned forward, her voice resolute. Patch the declaration through a tight beam relay. Let the chamber hear it echoing across their networks. We're not done yet. Tomas and Mira exchanged a look, the bond of shared peril forging them tighter. In the heart of chaos, humanity's spark burned brighter. The bridge of the UNS Vanguard thrummed with a low, insistent hum, the kind that seeped into bones after hours of tension. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the armrests of her command chair, her knuckles pale against the worn leather. Sweat beaded on her forehead, not from the recycled air but from the weight of what they'd unleashed. The holographic display flickered, showing the Armada's formation. 30 human ships, a ragtag fleet of refitted haulers and salvaged cruisers, holding position just beyond the chamber's sensor net. Alarms chirped softly, proximity alerts, energy spikes from the incoming enforcers. They're splitting their flanks, Lieutenant Marco Reyes said from tactical, his voice steady but edged with the fatigue of 3 sleepless shifts. He was the cautious one, always double-checking scans, his dark eyes narrowing at the readouts. 2 squadrons vectoring left, another pushing straight at us. If we don't adjust, they'll pinch us in 15 minutes. Elena nodded, her mind racing through simulations they'd run 100 times in the dim glow of strategy holos back on Luna Base. The plan had been bold. Slip through the nebula's interference, broadcast Earth's declaration from the heart of neutral space, and force the chamber's hand. But the aliens hadn't blinked. Their response was a declaration of their own. Quarantine enforcers, sleek dreadnoughts bristling with plasma lances, warping in from the core worlds. No negotiation, just the cold machinery of order. Helm, evasive pattern Delta 7, she ordered, her tone clipped, betraying none of the knot in her gut. Ensign Kira Novak, the youngest on the bridge and fiercely witty even under fire, punched in the commands with a flourish. Coming about, Captain. Let's see if these squids can dance. The ship lurched as thrusters fired, inertial dampeners straining against the G-forces. Through the viewport, stars streaked into blue-shifted lines, the nebula's glowing tendrils parting like reluctant curtains. Elena felt the vibration in her teeth, a reminder of how fragile their ingenuity was against the chamber's millennia of dominance. Humans had jury-rigged their drives with scrap from asteroid mines, overclocked reactors that could fry circuits if pushed too hard. It was grit versus empire, and grit was bleeding fuel. A comms ping cut through the din, priority from the rear guard. Vanguard, this is Liberty's dawn. We've taken a hit. Shields at 40%. They're targeting our engines. Elena's jaw tightened. The Dawn was commanded by her old Academy rival, now ally, Commander Tarek Hale, brave to a fault, the kind who'd charge a black hole if it meant buying time. Hold formation, Hale. We're rerouting power to cover you. But Reyes shook his head, fingers flying over his console. Captain, that pulls from our primaries. We do that, we're blind to their next wave. Choices clawed at her. Sacrifice the rear to save the fleet's momentum, or spread thin and invite collapse? The declaration had been her idea, words she'd poured into the broadcast. Earth's refusal to bow, a litany of human achievements from the first warp jump to the colonies thriving on Mars dust. It had rippled out, igniting relays across the fringe worlds. But triumph felt distant now, drowned in the red glow of damage reports. Kira spun in her chair, her ponytail whipping. What if we flip it? Use the nebulous plasma storms to mask a feint. Draw the left flank in, then hit M with the cargo bays, deploy those drone swarms we modded from mining rigs. It was clever, reckless, pure human adaptation. Elena met her ensign's gaze, seeing the spark of camaraderie that had forged this crew from disparate colonists and soldiers. Risky. But better than waiting to be boarded. She keyed the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Vanguard. Execute feint Bravo. Hale, you lead the anvil, hit them when they bite. The bridge erupted in motion. Reyes coordinated fire solutions, his cautious precision syncing with Kira's quick calculations. Explosions bloomed on the holo display as the first drones launched, tiny sparks swarming like angry hornets toward the alien flanks. The chamber ships adjusted, their formations precise, unyielding. But humans didn't fight fair, they fought smart. A shudder rocked the vanguard, direct hit from a glancing lance. Sparks showered from an overhead panel, and Elena smelled ozone. "Status," she barked. "Minor breach in auxiliary," Reyes reported, already sealing it remotely. "But hails through, their left is scattering." Through the viewport, the nebula ignited in a cascade of plasma flares, human drones detonating in orchestrated chaos. The alien squadron faltered, shields flickering under the improvised barrage. Cheers rose from the crew raw and earned, but Elena silenced them with a raised hand. The main enforcer wave was closing, its silhouette a monolithic shadow against the stars. Tarek's voice crackled over comms, strained but alive. "We've bloodied them, Elena. But they're adapting, jamming our drones now. What's our out?" She stared at the display, the fleet's icons pulsing like heartbeats. The Declaration had declared independence, but survival demanded more. "We push forward," she said, voice resolute. "Into the storm. If we break their line, the core worlds hear us unfiltered. Earth stands or we fall trying." The vanguard surged ahead, engines screaming, the nebula's fury swallowing them whole. Alarms wailed as interference scrambled sensors. But the crew held, bound by trust forged in the void. One more gamble, one more twist of human will, and the stars might yet bend. The stars stretched like a vast, indifferent tapestry beyond the viewport of the Independence's bridge, but Captain Elena Vasquez had eyes only for the console before her. Her fingers, calloused from years of jury-rigging colony tech, danced across the holographic controls. The chamber's decree still echoed in her mind, the Galactic Concordance's sterile proclamation of order restored, as if Earth's ragtag fleet of salvaged haulers and retrofitted miners could be folded back into their empire like a misfiled report. But order to them meant subjugation. To her, it meant the chains of resource quotas and enforced silence about the core world's excesses. Beside her, Engineer Tomas Ruiz wiped sweat from his brow, his wiry frame hunched over a sparking junction box. "Cap, the warp coils are holding, but if they scramble another blockade drone, we're venting plasma like a punctured lung." His voice carried that familiar grit, the kind forged in asteroid belts where one wrong calculation meant a lifetime adrift. Tomas had been the cautious one from the start, always double-checking seals and rerouting power, but tonight his hands moved with a fire Elena hadn't seen since their first mutiny run. Across the bridge, Lieutenant Kira Novak paced, her boots thudding softly against the grated deck. The ex-Concordance scout was all sharp edges, witty barbs masking the scars from enforcer interrogations. "They're bluffing," she said, glancing at the tactical display where red icons swarmed like angry hornets. The chamber's vote was 60-40, half their fleet's loyalists are already peeling off. "We hit their relay buoy and the whole declaration crumbles." Her eyes flicked to Elena, a silent question. "Are we doing this?" Elena nodded, the weight of it settling in her chest. The plan had backfired once already, in the outer rings when their feint drew a cruiser too close, costing them the auxiliary ship Dawn's Hope and 30 souls. But they'd adapted, Tomas splicing human intuition into alien code to spoof the drones, Kira's hacks turning enemy sensors against themselves. Now, with the chamber's order beaming across the quadrant, Earth's independence hung on this final push. No grand speeches, just the hum of engines and the sting of recycled air. "Engage the buoy," Elena ordered, her voice steady. The ship lurched as thrusters fired, weaving through the debris field they'd seeded earlier, shrapnel from a Concordance frigate they'd outmaneuvered. Alarms blared, a drone locking on, but Tomas slapped to override, the panel hissing in protest. "Got it, rerouting now." Kira slid into her station, fingers flying. "Buoy's shield is adaptive, but I've got a window. 3 seconds." The display lit up, green threading through red as the hack took hold. The relay buoy, a monolithic spire pulsing with Concordance authority, flickered. Its broadcast stuttered, the chamber's decree fracturing into static. From the comms, fragmented voices poured in, colony captains declaring for Earth, frigates breaking formation. But victory came with teeth. A drone clipped their flank, hull integrity dropping to 47%. Elena gripped the armrest, tasting blood from a bitten lip. Tomas, seal it. Kira, plot evasive. They complied without a word, the bridge a symphony of urgent beeps and murmured curses. As the Independence limped clear, the stars seemed to shift, the Concordance's grip loosening like a fist unclenching. Earth wasn't just surviving, it was claiming its place through grit and clever turns, not divine right. Hours later, in the dim glow of the mess hall, Elena poured synth coffee for the three of them. Tomas nursed a bruised hand, Kira traced scars on her arm. We lost good people, Elena said quietly, the cost lingering like smoke. The chamber would regroup, sanctions biting into supply lines, but the declaration stood, Earth free, its people unbound. Tomas raised his mug. To adaptation. Kira smirked. And to the next backfire we turn into gold. Elena clinked hers against theirs, the stars outside now witnesses, not overlords. The adventure wasn't over, it was just beginning.